3.3 saw a slew of successes with not only the release of the much awaited Scaramouche banner, but also with the awaited release of the Invocation TCG card game. Following this current patch waves of banners, the following ones will be a rerun banner of both Raiden Shogun and Ayato. Many players who do not have Raiden Shogun might be asking if it's still worth pulling for the Premier Electro Mommy, and I'm here to help you out. Before we start, I am RGBFOX, aka TheRealATown, and if you like this video, please consider subscribing for more videos like this one. When I started playing this game, I was introduced to the Yoimiya banner and thought that character was broken, and oh my, I was so far from the truth. A week later, the banner was gone, and I was introduced to the Raiden banner with some hesitation on my part to pull on it. See, at the time, I was still a free-to-play player, so I haven't sullied my wallet yet. If that wasn't enough, everyone and their mama was hammering down on how terrible the Electro Element was, and I couldn't bring myself to spend all the primogems and wishes I currently had saved up. I did try her out, and I thought she was alright. Soon I ended up pulling on the Raiden banner, and wouldn't you know it, I actually got her without losing the 50-50, and I was so ecstatic as I got the Premier 5-star in my first attempt. But yeah, you know, since I was still new, I only ended up slotting her in my physical Razor team. I know, a support for Razor? Never again. Over time, I unlocked the Inazuma and ended up building her properly with the emblem set and removed her Dragon Spine Spear and gave her a deathmatch, mainly because I was kinda lazy to farm for the catch. Fast forward to now, and I've upgraded her artifacts, willed for her C2, and even pulled Engulfing Lightning for her to do massive damage. I see now that the me of back then was tricked about how terrible Electro was, and I see now that Raiden provides immense value to your account, and that hasn't changed to this day. If anything, pulling for her now sounds better than ever, as the Dendro element gives her a new wave of teams as well as support capabilities. For that reason alone, I urge you to pull for this character, as she is one of the best units I've ever had, and to this day, I can't imagine my account without her. Despite the praise I have given her, I haven't explained why she's so great, so let's get on with that. So what makes Raiden Shogun so great? Let's look at her elemental skills, ignoring her normal attack as it's not important. Her elemental skill is an off-field electro damage attack that triggers when dealing damage to an enemy and applies electro. Since it only triggers when an enemy takes damage, it doesn't trigger on abyss shields or if the enemy is immune to damage. It deals very okay damage over time, but has a large AoE, and it can also increase the damage of your team's elemental burst on a percentage of their burst cost times 0.3 at level 9. It can apply electro to trigger electro-related reactions like overload and superconduct. However, because of its large AoE, it has a brand new application with being able to hit the C's caused by the bloom reaction to trigger hyper bloom, thus showing how great Dendro has been for her since 3.0. This alone gives her viability on a variety of teams. However, with her elemental burst at her disposal, she becomes one of the greatest supports and damage dealers in the game, and with C2, can become a powerful hyper carry on your roster. Her elemental burst has a large wall of text, so I'll sum it up for you. Her elemental burst gives her a sort of stance change where instead of her pole arm, she wields a sword. It starts with a large AoE nuke and infuses her attacks with electro with its own multipliers, which is why the normal attacks do not matter. For about 7 seconds, she will deal electro damage in this state. This elemental burst has a few properties that benefit her team. For one, it's a 90 energy cost burst in which during the burst duration, damage dealt to the enemy allows her to refund energy to her teammates. Using your team's burst before hers gives her resolve stacks, and those stacks get used up on activation and increases her burst damage along with her own buff from her elemental skill. She gets an immense resistance to interruption, and with her A4 passive, the energy restoration to the team increases with every point of energy she has above 100%. Speaking of energy, stacking her with a lot of energy recharge increases her damage in two ways. One, by giving her an electro damage bonus based on 0.4 times every point of energy she has above 100%, and by getting burst damage bonus to 25% of her total ER with the Emblem of Severed Fate set up to a maximum of 75%. She is truly a powerhouse that competes with many of the current high damage dealers, and that's why her teams are very successful. Along with that, she also has access to the Quicken Aura with Dendro units, which increases her damage with Aggravate. Raiden essentially got a buff with Dendro's release and is now better than ever. Does this mean that you should pull for her at all costs? No, not necessarily. If you don't have the money or gems to be able to spend all willy-nilly, then I recommend you save and not spend money on the game. After all, there will be more reruns and she isn't the end all be all for your account's success. Even so, I really recommend this character. I'm sure you guys will enjoy her as much as I have since her release in 2.1, but she does have some drawbacks. For one, she 100% is slated to only be able to use 2 artifact sets to be successful. Well, realistically 3. For personal damage and team utility, either play her with the Emblem of Severed Fate or don't play her at all. Sure, you can use sets such as Thundering Fury or 2-piece options, but she will lose a lot of damage and quite frankly, it isn't worth it in my opinion. The other options are if you're looking for an Electro Applicator for Hyperbloom, in which case I highly recommend either the 4-piece Gilded Dreams or the newly released Flower of Paradise Lost set. Both of these sets are great for her to deal immense damage with the Hyperbloom cores as she'll be the owner of the reaction damage, in which case ignore personal damage and just give her EM and she'll be great. Lastly, she's only as great as the teams that you're able to slot her in, and you can't just slot her in anywhere. Despite this, there are many teams where she will be a great asset to and is very comfortable to play with. She's pretty easy to build and she has many wonderful weapon choices that you can give her, however some are better than others. If you're looking to pull for Raiden, knowing what kind of weapon you want to give her can be a little challenging. For free-to-play and low spenders, you can utilize the Catch as the best free-to-play weapon at Raiden's disposal. It is free to refine and offers a great passive, giving her crit and burst damage bonus, which increases with refinements. While it is one of her best weapons, many characters may already use it, so other 4-star options include the Wavebreaker's Fin, the Deathmatch, and even the Lithic Spear if used in the national team. At high refinements, each one of those weapons can potentially offer more damage than the Catch, so use whichever one you deem fit. Of course, this wouldn't be a weapon ranking without the 5-star weapons, thus I'll order them from worst to best. Skyward Spine offers a large amount of base attack as well as a good amount of ER. The added crit rate is nice, but the passive is mostly wasted on her as her normals and charge attacks are considered burst damage and not normals in her burst state. The Calamity Queller definitely falls behind due to its passive being slightly wasted, but its massive base attack and attack substat gives her a nice utility for it as well as getting some elemental damage bonus. Following this, you have the crit-based options of Homa, Jade Spear, and Staff of Scarlet Sands. All are good choices, but Homa comes out on top, with the following one being Primordial Jade Spear and Staff of Scarlet Sands. Staff of Scarlet Sands ends up being about 5% worse than the Primordial Jade Spear, so don't really worry about it too much. Undoubtedly though, the best in slot weapon for Raiden by a long shot is her signature weapon, the Engulfing Lightning. With a whopping 608 base attack, a 55.1% ER substat, and a passive that increases not only her energy recharge after her burst activates, but attack based on a percentage of her ER above 100%, this weapon outshines every other one. With that being broken down, what are some of the teams Raiden is wanting to be on? Look no further. While she has many teams she can be slotted into, here are some of the ones I recommend when getting this unit. Nothing shouts comfort and high damage more than Raiden National. Being easier to play than the Child National variant, the team offers you to focus a little bit less on ER and more on damage for units such as Shanling and Xingqiu. This means that instead of ER focused weapons, those units can have access to more damaging weapon options such as the Homa and Jade Cutter. Aside from offering your team ER through her burst, she also buffs the team's burst damage and allows Raiden to apply Electro on enemies to trigger both Overload and Electric Charge to deal very good damage over time. Bennett's Field gives your units much needed attack, and the healing along with Xingqiu's damage resistance allows for a comfortable playstyle for players of all levels of investment. The following team is a Eula team, and while there are definitely better options, Raiden Shogun provides Eula 100% Electro uptime to be able to consistently proc Superconduct on all her enemies. This, along with her burst damage bonus and battery capabilities, makes her a very viable teammate for Eula. However, there's a few drawbacks. While yes, Raiden Eula teams can be good, they are far from great. For one, you must switch into Raiden to trigger her burst to funnel energy back to Eula, and this always happens at the end of the rotations, meaning Raiden lacks damage compared to when she's a sole driver on something like a National or a Hyper Carry team. As a result, it can lead to a DPS loss over time, so use her as you see fit. Aside from that, don't think that Raiden alone can facilitate the ER requirements on Eula. You still need to give her ER substats on her kit, so don't ignore energy recharge on your Eula. I'm speaking to you, r/Eula mains. Second to last, I present the Hyperbloom team with all Elemental Mastery Raiden. It speaks for itself really. Apply Dendro, apply Hydro, allow your elemental skill to do all the work off field. Need I say more? And lastly, one of if not my favorite team to put her in is the Raiden Hyper Carry team. I strongly suggest you have her C2 before attempting to find big success with this team, as the 60% defense reduction gives her a huge spike in damage. What I love about this team is that there are many ways to fully build it and not one way is better than the other. What I have on screen is a Raiden Hyper Carry comp with A, Sarah, Bennett, and Kazuha. Bennett is a staple and a must-have in this team. At C6, Sarah provides an immense attack buff whilst giving her an immense 60% crit damage increase with her massive attack buff. However, this is at C6. Without that constellation, she can still be used. However, in my opinion, the value she provides diminishes. Not only that, but I personally value weapons like Elegy of the End or Skyward Harp to increase Raiden's attack as much as possible. So without those weapons or constellations, I really don't recommend it. Does that mean that you can't play this comp? Of course not. Substitutes like, Fischl or Yaimiko, and I guess like someone like Kuki can work, but honestly, it in my opinion just fits niche situations. While I wouldn't use this team with Kuki myself, she can provide the team with extra healing, and with Tenacity of the Millilith, she can provide 100% uptime on his passive. It's a little whack, but decent nonetheless. For a super flex pick aside from those units, I'd recommend adding someone like, Nahida for the Quicken Aura. Great personal damage, and EM share that will increase Raiden's aggravate damage. Now, for the Anemo unit, it doesn't have to be Kazuha. While Kazuha provides excellent VV shred as well as damage bonus for Raiden, units like Sucrose with TDDS or someone like Venti with Elegy of the End can be amazing options for Raiden. Best of all, at C6, Sucrose also provides electro damage bonus if her burst absorbs electro. Venti might seem like an awkward pick, but do note that aside from the energy refund that he gives to his team, Raiden can also hit the enemies trapped in Venti's burst, so the height at which they are is no issue for Raiden. An honorable mention will be the Sunfire team with Raiden and Xingqiu, but honestly, the range at which you fight in is small and I'd much rather focus on building other units than my Jean right now. I think that Raiden is a unit that everyone can appreciate, and if you don't have her on your account yet, go grab her. If you enjoyed this video, sub, leave a like, and if I convince you to own a copy of her, say it in the comments below, as I believe everyone needs this Electro Mommy in their roster. Honestly, Raiden is my favorite character and she's carried me through some of the best and worst moments I've had with this game. I look forward to you guys enjoying this video. My name is RGBFOX. Have a wonderful day. Peace. I don't have a copy of Kuki. No way. You would have thought I would have got one with Sinnoh. Oh well.